Please help me welcome our unselfish patriot, the Honorable Senator William Philip Gramm.
Thank you very much, Don. I left the Senate in 2002, 14 years ago. I turned 60 and started thinking about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I'd had a good career, and I thought, something's to be said for quitting while you're ahead. And I worked for 9 years in New York for a big international bank. I worked for a private equity fund in London. Today, I would retire, but my wife would put me in a nursing home if I didn't bring home money, so I continue to work. I don't give many speeches anymore. I'm not a public person, as I always tell the media when they ask me my opinion about things that I don't want to talk about. But I came today, accepted this invitation for two reasons. One is Walmart, and the other is Asa Hutchinson. I love Walmart. Walmart is a great company that has had a profound effect on the welfare of Americans. There aren't 4 government programs aimed at helping low-income Americans that have as big an impact every year on the working people of this country as Walmart does. And Walmart doesn't just help the people riding in the wagon, it helps the people that are pulling the wagon as well. It provides quality goods at low prices, and it has raised the living standards of millions of people in this country. Walmart is a very important company and is the premier retailer in the world, and anybody that has anything to do with Walmart has the right to be proud of it. I once told a story on the floor of the Senate. I was working at my place in the country, and I have a 1973 Jeep Wagoneer. Now, I've put as much money into it as you would spend to buy a Cadillac Escalade. But I had bought a rake at Walmart, and I was going to clean out around a well, and my Jeep had been sent to the shop with my rake in the back of it. So I drove into town and went to Walmart, and I bought exactly the same rake that I had bought 3 years before. And when my Jeep came back, I got out the 2 rakes, and I was looking at them, and the rake I had bought 3 years ago still had the price tag on it. It was $19 and some odd cents, and the one I just bought 2 days before was $14 and some odd cents. That was $5 that Walmart put into my pocket, and I want to thank you. In fact, on the floor of the Senate, I said, God bless Walmart. It always makes me angry when all these people who want Walmart to cheat its customers in order to benefit them through union contracts and by cheating people out of the ability to buy the best product at the lowest price. I get unhappy about it because I don't think it's right. The second reason I'm here is Asa Hutchinson. I know Asa from long ago when we were in Congress together, and I have a very high opinion of Asa Hutchinson. He's smart, and he's wise. And those two things normally don't come together. My grandmother used to say, if God gives you something, he often takes something away. There are a lot of smart people in the world, but most of them are not very wise. In an era where politics is so much demagoguery and popping off about things people don't know anything about, Asa Hutchinson struck me from the very first time I ever met him as a guy who was a good listener. It's an indispensable ingredient in being a great leader, in my opinion, being a good listener. It's a whole lot more important than being a good talker. And he listened to all sides of all arguments. And obviously, he ended up, more often than not, in doing the right thing. I do agree with Jim. I think he's been a great governor of Arkansas. And he's been a great public servant. And he's a model of what you would want your son or daughter to grow up to be like. And he's a model of what you would want a public official to be. And so, because this being here, anything here is about Walmart. And because of Asa, that's why I decided to come. Now, what is my message today? It sort of has to do with your message in Economics Arkansas. We have, in the last 8 years, had the poorest recovery in the post-war history of America. Much poorer than I think most people understand. We've had 11 recessions since World War II, and we've had 11 recoveries. If this recovery that started in June of 2009, roughly 4 or 5 months after President Obama took office, the recession was over. If this recovery had simply been as strong as the average of the other 10 recoveries in post-war America, every man, woman, and child in America, on average, would have $7,737 of more income than they have today. That's $31,000 per family in America that we have been cheated out of because of a failed recovery in our great country. Now, from 1948 to 2007, a period in which we had 10 recessions, and I'm counting the recessions, our economy grew by a remarkable 3.5% a year. No other country in history that was a developed country has ever achieved our economic success. Our economy in the last 8 years has grown by 1.2%. Now let me set that in context. The recovery under President Clinton was 5.5 times as strong as the current recovery in terms of income generation and job generation. The Reagan recovery was 7 times as strong. The Kennedy-Johnson recovery was 9.5 times as strong. Why has this recovery been so weak? Well, some people have tried to argue it's because the recession was deep. But the plain truth is, in American history, as you probably remember from your freshman economics, the bigger the bust, the bigger the boom. Historically, the strongest recoveries have come after the deepest recessions. So while that argument has been made over and over again, it doesn't hold water. Exactly the opposite is true. The argument was made it was because this recession was a financial recession. But when economists went back and looked at some 107 recessions in developed countries all over the world since 1850, recoveries have been stronger after recessions that were caused by financial conditions than they have in normal, what we call inventory cycle recessions. Why is this recovery so weak? Well, let me just click through a few things. Personal income taxes are up 24%. The full weight of that falling on small business, and in no area is the American economy lagging more today than in small business, where most of our new jobs are created. The capital gains and dividends tax is up 59%, and it even costs 14% more to die in America today than it did at the beginning of 2009. We print regulations issued by the federal government in the Federal Registry. And so you can literally get an index of what's happening in government by just looking at how thick it is. Of the 8 fattest, longest federal registries in American history, 7 of them have been printed in the last 7 years. Government now dominates the healthcare market, 1/7 of the American economy. The banking system is virtually a public utility. The government dominates power generation. The government even regulates the internet as it regulated the telephone company in the 1930s. We have doubled the federal debt trying to get the economy to grow. If you had asked me before this all happened, was it possible for the federal government to double the debt and spend the money and the economy not at least initially respond to it, I would have said it's impossible, but I would have been wrong. We have spent more money to achieve less than any country in the history of the world in terms of this recovery. The Federal Reserve Bank has bought a larger percentage of the public debt than they did in World War II. The monetary base of the country, that is, the amount of money created by the Fed, has quadrupled. Interest rates are almost zero, and yet the economy is not growing. Why? Because we have a bad economic system. The economy is not growing because we stopped doing the things that made it grow to begin with. We used to talk about American exceptionalism. American exceptionalism basically boiled down to the fact that this country was different than other countries. This is a country where it didn't matter who your daddy was. This was a country where if you worked hard and if you had ability, you succeeded. If you didn't work hard and you didn't have the ability, you failed. But it was hard to fail. But what created that exceptionalism was not us, but the system. America is not a great and powerful country because it was here that the most brilliant and talented people in the world came to live. I used to tell my children, now I tell my grandchildren, people like us would be peasants in any other country in the world. We have been successful because we were blessed to be born and to live in America. We now are producing economic results like Europe because we've adopted Europe's economy. If we want the economy to grow, We have got to get government out of the way. If we want the economy to grow, we've got to let banks make loans again. Banks now know their regulator, not their customer. And the economy shows it. We've got to give people freedom back in areas like health care. We've got to set the American economy free. And a final point to all of the students that are here that are studying about the economy and about capitalism and free enterprise. Capitalism is about freedom. If you believe in freedom, you believe in capitalism. Now, there are a lot of people that don't believe in freedom. They think government ought to control things. They think something is wrong by people succeeding based on hard work and effort and genius. They think people like Sam Walton ought to be taxed and regulated rather than rewarded and benefit. But they're wrong. And I know they're wrong because I look at the history of our great country. When we've let capitalism work, we've succeeded and we've prospered. When we tried socialism, we failed. And I think that's the lesson that I wanted to bring today. So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.